Hey, Walter.
How are you, Harold?
Hi, everybody.
I'm good. Good.
Any good evening.
Hi. We're on Kuf
Yeah.
108. Boy Rava Amale Roish Ben Yoinishain Bokazayas. You offered up on a mizbeach outside the base of Migdash the head of a pigeon or a dove that is not the size of a kazayas. This is an ola sa'of, because a chatz sa'of is not, the meat is not offered on the mizbeach. It's eaten. So you're only chayiv for offering something on an outside mizbeach, something that you offer on the inside mizbeach. But the meat of a chattas is not offered on the mizbeach. So this is an ola sa'of, and the head of the bird is less than the kazayas. Umelach, salt, is mashlimo lekazayas. Yesterday we talked about a bone with a piece of meat. There we said that it is mitzdarif. So what about here? Is the salt mitzdarif with the head of the bird that's less than the kazayis? Armle Rava mi prazkil Ravashi. Lav hanu pluktad Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish. We had a machlokas with a piece of meat and a bone that made a kazayis. So Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish argued. So the Gemara initially thinks that this question of the head of the bird plus the salt is the same question as the meat with the bone. However, the Gemara says no. You can ask the question Tibol Rav Yochanan, Tibol Reish Lakish. Tibol Rav Yochanan, Ad kan lekam Rav Yochanan Asum Ela Etzem. Over there, he says that the bone is mitztarev, the minot the basarhu. Bone is in the same category as meat. Ava melach the lav minot the baryonu. Salt is not meat. It's not part of the bird. Maybe low. Maybe there's no combination. Or tibor Reish Lakish. Ad kan lekam Reish Lakish Asum Eladi portion of mitzvah lafuke. Reish Lakish over there said that the meat and the bone is not mitzvah. Why? Because when you separate the meat and the bone and you have just bone, there's no mitzvah to put the bone on the mizbeach at all. But there is a mitzvah to put salt on every korban. So maybe low. Maybe it would count. Or dimaloishna. Or maybe it makes no difference. So take it so that we don't have an answer. Then the Mishnah said, the Mishnah, Rabbi Yosef Lili said that the Tanakhama said that if you shoichet something inside and offer it outside, you're chayiv. And if you shoichet something outside and offer it outside, you're also chayiv. That's the Tanakhama. Rabbi Yosef Lili said only when you shoichet something inside and offer it outside, because when you shoichet something inside, it makes it fit to be offered on the mizbeach inside. But when you shech something outside, it's not fit for anything. So you would be potter. And Rabbi Yosef Glili answered that to the Chacham. So Heshiv, Rabbi Tachas Rabbi Yosef Glili, Rabbi answered for Rabbi Yosef Glili. Mala shechet b'fninu mala b'chutz. When you shecht an animal inside and you offer it outside. Sh'aiselo shasa kosher. The moment you shechted it inside, it was now on track to being a kosher korban. It had at least a minute where it was completely kosher. So certainly your chayiv chat is when you offer such a thing outside. If you shech the korban outside the azor, it never had a moment of kashrus. So Rabbi Yosef is correct to say that you're not chayiv there. And Heishi Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Shimon Tachas Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Lezer Rabbi Shimon offered another answer in the name of Yosef Glili. Mala shochet b'fnim u'mala b'chutz. Shekin kodesh makablo. If you shecht something inside and then offer it up outside, now if you take an animal, you shecht it inside, and the meat is taken outside. So lechatchila, you're not supposed to put it on the mizbech anymore. But if you violated the law and put it on the mizbech, the din is you leave it there. So perhaps that is a reason why then if you shecht it outside, you're chayiv chatas. Toimer b'sheich mechutz she'en kodesh mekablo. If you start the process of shechting outside, if you put it on the mizbech, you have to take it off the mizbech. So that goes along with Rabbi Yosef Glili. It says you're potter. Now, what's the difference between Rabbi and Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon? My binayu. Amar ze shchita slayla iki binayu. When you shech the korban at night, so according to Rabbi Yosef Glili, if you try to offer it outside, you wouldn't be chayav achatas. And it was never had a shasa kosher. However, if you shech something at night you're not supposed to put it on Mizbech, but if you put it on Mizbech, you leave it there. So according to that Mando Amar, you would be Chayiv Kores if you shecht it outside. Rabba Amar Kabbalah B'Kli Choli could be nine. If you receive the blood in a non-sanctified Kli, so it never had a Shasa Kosher. But the din is, since if you put it on the Mizbech, you leave it there, that would be another nafkamina between the two svaras. Then the Mishnah said, Tomei sha'achal bein kodesh. We said if somebody is Tomei betumas aguf and eats Tomei hegdish food, you're chayiv. According to Rabbi Yossi Glili, if you eat Tomei food, you're not chayiv. And the Rabbanan said Rabbi Yossi Glili will understand. Even if you eat tahor food, the moment you touch it, it becomes Tomei. So Shapir come and they Rabbanan Rabbi Yossi Glili. Amar Rava, if a person had become physically Tomei before the meat became Tomei, everybody agrees that he'd be chayiv achatas for eating betumas aguf, even though the meat's already Tomei. Shkein tumas aguf b'kares. Tumas aguf, and you eat korbanos as kares. Ki pligi b'shnet nitma basar v'achach nismaguf. If the kosher became Tomei first, and then you became Tomei, your body. The Rabbanan Savri Amrina Migu. We have a Migu here. When you become physically Tomei, you also can't eat Torah food. So there's certainly a prohibition for eating Tomei food. But Rav Yosef Glili is Savri Amrina Migu. But Rav Yosef Glili says we don't learn this Migu. However, the Gemara says Rabbi Yossi and he the Migul or Amrinan. Fine, he doesn't say the Migul, but Tesi Tumas Aguf to Chamir v'Tachla Tumas Basar. Having physical Tuma is worse than, is more stringent than Kosher meat that becomes Tamei. Amar Ravashi. Why? Mimayde Tumas Aguf Chamura. Dilma Tumas Basar Chamura. Shekein Latar B'Mik. I'll give you a proof. A person with physical Tuma, he has a way to correct it. He goes to the mikveh. If you have meat that's tamei, how do you correct it? There is no correction. So you can't say one is more stringent than the other. Okay, Mishnah. There are certain aspects of shechting outside that is greater than offering outside. And there are aspects uvaliyah mibishchita. There are aspects of offering outside that are more stringent than shchita outside. Chomer b'shchita shashochet lehedyet chayiv. If you shecht on behalf of a regular person who's going to eat the meat, not lavodah zara, you're still chayiv. But v'mal lehedyet potter. If you offer up on a mizbeach, you don't have halah, you wouldn't get this kares. You get a different aveira of worshiping a person, but you wouldn't have the aveira of being mala kochim b'chutz. Chomer baliyah, there's an aspect of stringency of offering in the following way: Shnaim she'achzu b'sakin b'shachtu b'turim. Two people hold on to the knife when they shecht, both are potter. But also two people who hold on to one of the limbs of the animal and throw it up on the mizbeach, they're both chayiv. What if hela v'chazer v'hela v'chazer v'hela? He throws it on the mizbeach, he thinks it's permitted. Then they tell him it's not prohibited. Then he forgets, he does it again. He does it again. Chayiv al kol aliyah v'eliyah. You have to bring multiple chatos. Rabbi Yossi and a chayiv alachas. You only chayiv one. Then, you have to actually put it on mizbeach, not on a stone. Rabbi Shimon Omer afilu ela laselo la even chayiv. So Maishna Amala Lehedya to Potter. When you shech for a person, when you offer up a korban on behalf of a person, you're Potter. Desiv Lashem. The prohibitions when you offer it Lashem. Well, b'shchita nami aksiv Lashem. How can you say that when you slaughter for a regular person, you would be Potter? Mar says Shani Yosem Demokra ish. It comes to include shechting for another person. So, if you offer on a mizbech for another person, it should also be chayv based on ish. It says, and you need ish to teach me that if two people offered up a limb on a mizbech outside, they're both chayv. Why did you say before that if two people shech their potter, maybe the ish comes to tell you that if two people hold on to the knife and shech, they're chayiv. Shani hazim damakra hahu. He will get kares. Echad v'lo shnayim. There's only chiyuv for one person, not two. You said that if two people offer up a limb, both are chayiv. But there it also says ahu. That should also restrict the chiyuv to just one person. Oh, that ahu is needed. The boy lay limuute shoygeg onus umuta. Let's say you think that offering this on an outside mizbech is permitted. So in those cases, you're not chayiv. And you need the hahu to tell you that. By shchita should be the same thing. Or it says treyahu ksiv. One teaches me that you're chayiv even by yourself. And the other says you're not chayiv if you were shoygeg. If you have ahu el Hashem lamali. Lahotzi sar mishtalech. The goat that is sent out on Yom Kippur is not offered on any mizbeach. So therefore, if you shech the sar mishtalech, you're potter from kores. Chaymer baliyah, we said there's more astringency by offering on a mizbeach. Ton rabbanan ish. Two people throw a piece of the meat of the korban on an outside mizbech, they're both chayiv. Shiyachol v'halodinu. I could have learned through logic that it's not so. Umar shoichet lehediyot shechayiv. We said if you shecht on behalf of a person, you're chayiv, and yet shnaim shachzu b'sakin v'shachtu p'turin, and we learned that if two people hold on to the knife, they're potter. Hamala lehediyot shepotter. If you offer up to a regular person on a mizbech, you're potter. I would think, as a kavachoymer, that two people who threw up a piece of meat on the mizbech would also be potter. Says the Gemara, ish. That even if two people did it together, they're chayiv, div Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Yossi Amar hahu, echad v'lo shnayim. Well, im kein matam l'ra ish. The Torah writes poetically. But there's no drasha there. Rab Shimon, the ahu is not available to teach you echad v'lo shnayim because we needed to say that if you did it b'shoygeg, you're not chayiv. So Rabbi Yossi learns both. Hu, hahu. So he learned both did it. Rab Shimon, hu, hahu, lo dorish. So what does Rabbi Yossi do with midhai ish dabra term elasham ne'adam? Why can't you say we don't learn anything from ish? Hahu ish nami the return elasham ne'adam. The ish because there's an ish by both places. El hashoichet le'edyot benole dechayiv. How do you know that if you do shchita even for another person, not for Hashem, you're also chayiv? Nafkalei meidam yechashev la'ish hahu dam shafach. Period. Then we said hele v'chozer v'hele. If you offered up multiple pieces, you're chayiv for each one. Amrish Lakish. Machloikas bedal ve'evorim. You have 4 or 5 pieces from the same korban. The Mars over kiksiv lasos oso. It's only when you offer up the whole animal on the outside mizbech that you're going to be chayiv, not if it's deficient. Right? Akol be'emaksiv. Umar sover akol aver ve'aver ksiv. No, it's each and every limb. Akol aver echad divra kol en chayiv la'achas. For each limb, you're chayiv 1 chatas. Rav Yochanan or machloikas be'aver echad. The machloikas is already in 1 limb. The marsaver mukterei pnim shechasru, things that had become deficient, vela b'chutz chayiv, still you're chayiv. Umar saver potter. Aval badal ve'evorim. But with 4 or 5 pieces, divrei kol chayiv al kol ever. Everybody will agree that you're chayiv for each limb. Upliga de ula. This is not like ula. Domer ula. Hakol moedim b'mukterei pnim shechasru vela b'chutz chayiv. If you have korbanos that you shechted inside, but you lost some of the pieces, and whatever you had, you offered outside, you're chayiv. Lo nechlik well b'mukterei chutz, something that was shechted outside, shechasru, that you lost pieces, ve'elu b'chutz. The marsaver potter, u'marsaver chayiv. Ikedi amri, other people learn differently. Omer ula, ha kol moedim b'mukterei chutz shechasru. You shechted a kodshim outside that became deficient. Ve'elu b'chutz, and you offered it on the mizbech outside, shehu potter. No machloket. Lo nechlek well b'mukterei pnim shechasru ve'elu b'chutz. A korban that was shechted inside became deficient, and you offered the deficient korban outside. The Mar Savar potter, Rabbi Yossi says you'd be potter, and Rabbi Shimon Mar Savar chayiv. Upliga davuda Shmuel alishta kama deula. This is machlokes with the father of Shmuel, who argues with Ula. Amar avuda Shmuel. Kiman madrin and poikim lagabi mizbech. You're burning korbanos on the mizbech, and the fire is so great that pieces are thrown off. You're allowed to put them back. Kiman, to like Rabbi Yossi. Because Rabbi Yossi must hold that pieces that came off the mizbech, you can return to them. So, period. The Mishnah said you're chayiv kores if you offered it on the mizbech, not on a rock. There was a machlokas. On Ravuna, my time in Rabbi Yossi, who says a mizbech, T'chsiv vayiven Noach mizbech l'Hashem. Noach, when he came out of the teva, the bamas were allowed there, and it's outside the base of Mikdash. It says very clearly, though, they had to do it on the mizbech. My time at Rabbi Shimon, it says you can offer it even on a stone. T'chsiv vayikach Manoach echkediyah izim, v'samincha vayal al atzur l'Hashem. Manoach, the father of Shimshon, who lived in the times when the bamas were permitted, he offered it on a rock. Avidich nami. So Rabbi Shimon, what does he do? Vayiva mizbech l'Hashem. Hu guva ba'alma. It was comfortable for him. It's at the same height that he's standing. Doesn't have to bend over. According to the one that says you need to put it on a mizbech, what about the pasuk manoch that says he did it on a rock? So it was just the malach allowed it at that time, but generally we would not permit unless it's a mizbech. Iboy say my time in Rab Shimon Kinetanya, Rab Shimon Noimer. It says mizbech pesach ol moed. In the ol moed you need a mizbech. Ve mizbech babama. But when you're outside the base of mikdash, you don't need a mizbech. Leficha chel ala selo ala even chayiv. So it shouldn't be chayiv yotzam boile. We're talking about offering korbanos. So it should be helal selo leven yotza. Not that he's chayiv. Achikar. Lefichach b'shas isra bomis. When it's prohibited to offer an abama, then helal selo leven chayiv, because it's like a mizbeach. Boy Rabbi Yosef Rab Chanina. Karen, the horn of a mizbeach. Kevesh, the ramp. Ribua, the fact that the mizbeach is square. The yesod, the fact that the mizbeach in the Beis Hamikdash has a foundation. Maushi Yaakov b'bama. When you offer a korban in a bama, when the bamas are permitted, do all these things have to have it? Does the bama have to have these aspects? Amalei Rav Yirmiyah, Tanya. Karen v'kevesh ribua v'yesod. Ma'akvin b'bama gdola v'ma'akvin v'aktana. The bama gdola was in the Mishkan in Gilgal, or in Nov and Givon. That's where you brought the korban pesach. If you had to bring a chatas, a private bama in your backyard, you only brought donative olos and shlomim. So a bama gdola needed the format of a regular mizbech. Had to be square, had to have a horn, had to have a yesod. But a private bama, you didn't need that. Okay. Tomorrow, 3:00.
Very good.
Okay.
Good night.
Good night,
All
everyone.
right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.